Hi, hello. This is Token here. Oh, whoops. Hi, this is Token here, and I am live with the Devil Advocate podcast once again. It's been about a week, but I am back. And so, if you didn't know already, this is a podcast in which you can call in and I will debate you on whatever topic that you decide. And I do reserve the right to hang up if I want to, but you can call this number on the screen at any point in time throughout and I will answer it. I also have my email that you can email with whatever you decide to. Now, you can also find all of my social medias of clips of this stream on my TikTok or my Instagram, and there will be a YouTube video edited of this stream later on. Now, the last stream that I had was about whether or not marriage was worth it. So in the meantime, while I don't have callers, I am going to debate about whatever topic that I decide to for about 2 hours. And during that 2 hours, I'm gonna make my case for it. And if you agree, you don't, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Now, today is gonna be a bit different than beforehand. We are talking about YouTube as a primary source of television. You heard me right? YouTube. On Twitch. The best way to... I don't know if Twitch is gonna like this one, but I'm not bashing Twitch. This can apply to Twitch as well. So don't assume as me saying this that I am anti-Twitch. I am on Twitch. Clearly I like the site at least a little bit. Because I know you can definitely pay money in order to use YouTube TV as a literal streaming service, but I don't mean it as in like cable TV. I mean YouTube, the unpaid platform as the primary source. Oh, I have not introduced Theta yet. So Theta is this, she's basically like a ghost in the background, floating by. It's just, the hypothetical argument, and she floats by because she's supposed to be symbolic and whatnot. Your English teacher would be very happy to hear someone's using symbolism. Anyway, for the good majority of my life, I've just watched YouTube. I know I've seen this other YouTuber be like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do after I stop doing YouTube because that's all I ever, thought about. That's me, except not, with being a creator, but with consuming YouTube media. So I am very biased in that I really love YouTube. I love content from creators, influencers, whatnot. I'll say I've had experience with every other different type of, streaming platform that I'm gonna discuss as well. The really popular brand name, streaming platforms. And at some point in time in my life, I did also have regular cable. Well, I mean, cable's okay, but, it's not for me most of the time. I enjoy YouTube. To debate whether or not YouTube is the best streaming service, we first have to discuss, what each of them bring to the table in comparison to one another. So, you don't see it. Maybe if anyone requests it in the YouTube video, I might add it into the comments. It's gonna be used twice throughout this stream, and twice throughout the video. But, I made a chart of, all of the different quantifiers of what makes a good streaming service and the factors and whatnot, but we're gonna go through it just so you can, if you put me on a tab somewhere and you're like, what are they talking about? You can just hear me in the background, or if you're listening from the podcast version, hi. But regardless, going to get into the list. I'm going to explain it verbally. So if you're not looking at it, you don't have to be like, what is happening? Which I was very curious about how people were. Because someone did stream my podcast of the tier list, and I was like, you know, props to you. You're actually, you're watching something that is primarily a visual. The podcast is just my videos and whatnot in audio form and whatnot, but so interesting. Good on you. The first factor we're going to get into is funding when it comes to different, like, film services and whatnot. So, cable, generally, you know, because it has stuff from Hollywood. It's got the standard Hollywood movies, standard TV shows, and whatnot. The funding is very high. There's very high quality stuff that's produced. Not to say that high quality stuff is not produced on YouTube. It is. But there's a much lower budget. There's not a Hollywood running YouTube on every channel. So, usually, streaming services and cable differ in the, you know, costs. Then I have the factor of whether or not it is considered, you know, traditional, or a bit older, or a more modern form of entertainment. So I would count streaming as a more modern form of entertainment along with YouTube, because YouTube was the one that was created the most recently, I believe, out of the three. Don't quote me, but I believe it's one of the more recent ones out of all of them. So, streaming and YouTube both have the modernity, and then it's going on subscriptions. Just like to be able to watch the base level of it. There's going to be two sections for subscriptions and everything, and one of them's just going to be, does it require a subscription to be able to watch any content whatsoever? And for a lot of streaming services, that requires a subscription. Cable requires a subscription. YouTube does not. The organization of the film or TV show or whatever media is created for cable and streaming, it's, you know, again, organized by a team. Even the small, lesser-known shows or whatever, there's usually a team producing whatever media comes out of cable or out of streaming. Whereas with YouTube, it can all be one person in their attic making the video. It does not require a lot of people, although there can definitely be more people. Another comparison category is that any show can pop up on YouTube, like anything, almost anything can pop up in the algorithm. You know, it's not to say that there aren't any regulations. There are. They have the policies and things that cannot pass it. But generally, you gotta be reviewed by more, like, you know that joke of whenever people are like, I cannot believe this passed the writer's room of all places, and then also made it on television. It doesn't have to pass a writer's room on YouTube to be able to be uploaded. It just doesn't have to break the rules. So, whereas with, like, cable or regular streaming, usually it's gotta pass like a writer's room or something like that. You do the subscription to just watch the base level of information, or if there is no subscription to be able to watch content, this is the second level of subscription tier in regards to each streaming platform. So YouTube has no ads with a subscription, so they do. Whenever we get the regular streaming services, they have no ads with the subscription already and like that comes with it. You don't have to pay more for that after the first level. Once you have that first level, you're good. Cable, it still has ads with a subscription, which since streaming and YouTube came out and you're able to watch things without a subscription, or not without a subscription, with a subscription to get rid of ads, I thought they would have gotten rid of ads in regular cable, because I don't know why they still have it. I have no reason to watch cable anymore, but the fact that you still have to watch ads, to the best of my knowledge, it has been a while since I've watched cable, but when I did, you still had ads, even though you were paying a lot monthly. I think that's a bit. Cable has like almost every channel, and then streaming services doesn't have every single thing, but it generally has like the most. Is YouTube, that doesn't even apply really. I mean, they have like the videos that you can, not videos, movies that you can like buy to watch on YouTube. That is a thing. So I'm not gonna say that doesn't exist, but you have to pay for each one of those, or probably pay for YouTube Premium, or YouTube TV, or YouTube Premium, or something. I'm not counting that because I don't count. I'm not trying to make the argument that YouTube TV should be the new TV. I think YouTube should be the new TV. And then we have where you can stream it. For regular cable, you got the TV, probably an app as well. For regular streaming, a TV app, iPad, like any device, but usually restricted to like, I don't know, like 4 to 6 devices. Depends on your subscription itself. And then YouTube, it could be anywhere as long as, you just put in the URL. You don't download anything, it's just a website. Very useful, very, very useful. The last part is where your contribution to each of them is financially. Whenever you're doing cable or like streaming services, since you're watching mainly Hollywood films or movies, or what, films and movies are the same thing. But films, movies, TV shows, any other series, you're funding that. Whereas with YouTube, at least you are funding the individual directly, and that individual has more creative control over what they make in comparison to, the other experiences. Because let's say you work in Hollywood and you're an actor, you don't have creative control over everything. The only person who's got that much creative control in Hollywood is the director themselves. Or like the producer, But of course, there's gonna be like negatives and positives to each, like, each of these 3 options are gonna have more negatives and positives that I did not mention. But those are the ones that I'm taking into account when I am categorizing why which one of them is better than the other one. So you can understand my thought process. If you feel like you can come up with a better way to categorize it, or you have more things to add to the list, feel free to add to it. You can comment it, you can do whatever you want. So the main argument I would think that most people would have, YouTube is not as good of a streaming service in comparison to streaming, regular streaming, or cable, is that with YouTube, not all of the videos, but I would say nowadays, since we went through the adpocalypse and the pandemic, and I would say I see a lot of videos that are around 10 minutes, or 20 minutes if they're feeling fancy. If you're watching like a gaming YouTuber, they have really really long videos, at least nowadays. Not to say that they didn't previously, but it's just there's a lot. I don't really watch gaming much anymore, but I used to watch it a lot when I was younger. And now it just feels like they're like, oh, there's another like 8-part series that Marker Jack put out of whatever storyline-based video game it is. Which is fine, but I think it's different than how things used to be. But I would say nowadays it's about like 10 to 20 minutes for a YouTube video, because also shortened attention spans due to TikTok and Instagram Reels. But that would be the main argument against it that I can think of, is that, well, I want to watch a TV show. I want to watch a storyline that continues for multiple episodes with characters that I can get used to and enjoy and get to know over time. Which also, that's another point. You could argue that there are multiple of those already on YouTube. Although mainly the content is 10 to 20 minutes now, I have seen people do those really long storyline-based videos where they spend 30 minutes and it's basically like a TV show. And it has all these elaborate plot lines, their characters, yada yada yada. Now, one that I could see as a more accurate argument that's a little hard to counter is, well, I want to watch a movie. I want to sit down and watch like 2 hours, or take 2 hours of my time to get attached to characters, high quality production, yada yada yada. And to that I say, it's not like it doesn't exist. I'm sure there are some individuals who are posting to YouTube videos that are like 2 hours long that have all those characters and whatnot. Now we do have a good example of a YouTuber who did end up making their own movie as a result of their experience over the years and just their interest overall. Markiplier. He made, Iron Lung, and he got that distributed and all of that. I'm fairly certain Markiplier is not just uploading Iron Lung on the YouTube for free. I'm like 99% certain he's not doing that. Which is fine. That's totally fair. But this is to make the argument of like YouTube could definitely be a replacement for television itself. I'm not saying that other creators can't do what Mark did and make their own movie, license it, get it to where, other people can't, not other people can't, but license it and like not upload it as free for 2 hours. I'm sorry, y'all. My throat's killing me. But I am saying it's not like it's impossible for it to happen on YouTube. Also, if you're like, okay, well, there's not people who do that right now, so how would YouTube be a better option for entertainment when they don't even have it yet? Alright, that's fair. That's very fair. But we do already have sources of entertainment that are at least 2 hours 2 hours long with character growth, storylines, yada yada yada. They're just, a lot of them are gameplay walkthroughs. They're not, a lot of them are gameplay walkthroughs, and it's, you have to have somebody else also reacting to it, in order for you to be able to get the storyline of the game itself. So, I will say we do have it in the video game section. Now, let's go into the cost of things. Okay, before we do that, getting regular streaming services solve the problem of cable being too expensive, but also providing all of the, like, really high quality stuff for people to watch. And to that I say, it's actually getting pretty expensive. People originally started getting streaming services because it was so much cheaper than cable, but if you start doing the math like I did, it is actually not that much of a difference anymore. let's say you wanted 6 streaming services and you're gonna pay for them. That would be the average, like the money that you use for those 6 streaming services. I'm not going to say exactly which services I used in this example or the pricing ranges, but just know 6 of the major streaming services for this estimate that I did would cost monthly as much as it would be to get standard cable channels and nine extra streaming services, because cable, like, bundles with streaming services nowadays, which I actually didn't know about that before doing this. So I was just like, okay, well, this should solve the problem. Maybe this isn't a good argument. No, it's actually more expensive than cable now, which is crazy. Because I don't know if this is true or not. Last I checked, the major streaming service, but I don't want to say the name of the service, but I was told one of the major services was now like $40 a month, and I was like, what are you talking about? $40 a month is almost as much as some cable. Now, the argument for, like, moderation, hey, well, Token, I don't need 6 streaming services. I'll probably do, like, 3 or whatever. And that's totally fine. Again, my point, though, even if you had, like, 3 streaming services, one of those combinations of those services would be as much as, again, regular cable with a couple of streaming services, or just regular cable period. And that's a bit ridiculous. Not only does YouTube beat both streaming services and cable when it comes to, I don't have to spend any money whatsoever to have it, which, that's great. But not only does it have that, but it has new content coming in all the time. Now, is all of it original? No. Everything's derivative. That's the nature of creativity. But it feels like more and more nowadays, when it comes to traditional Hollywood, or like their movies, their television shows, or just any media in general that comes from the television, cable, streaming services, feels bland. And everything feels like it's a sequel, or a prequel, or a spin-off of something that's already been created, instead of something entirely new, or at least inspired, very well inspired. But that is my argument for YouTube. I think, although not all of YouTube is very creative, but I've been on YouTube watching for a decade and a half. That's a lot of years, at least, of just consuming content on YouTube, and I have yet to get tired of it. Now, of course, I've been watching movies since I was very young as well, but I got sick of it. I'm sick of watching movies and television shows that are frankly boring. I love good media. I love good film. It's actually kind of a joke that, like, I love weird film facts, I love film in general, and it's very depressing to see everything become so bland and uninteresting on so many levels. But whenever I pull up YouTube, I find more originality and uniqueness than in Hollywood at times. And I know if someone's like, really, you think there's more originality on YouTube than in Hollywood? And then they pull up like, a duck walked in, I don't want to get copyright striked actually. But you know, that, like, they'd be like, this is original? What are you talking about? This is unoriginal. This is a child cartoon, or whatever. But honestly, it's kinda catchy. I'm joking. That was years ago. I bet if I googled that right now, it'd be like 10 years ago today. Did y'all ever Google, like, any old, like, I don't remember. I remember I pulled up on Instagram some day and someone was like, you wanna feel old? This movie came out like almost 15 years ago. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Absolutely not. But anyway, there are things on YouTube that I don't think would be possible to be made in Hollywood due to the nature of how Hollywood is run. And how, although they praise innovation and originality and whatnot, it's very structured and whatnot. For example, something like Unis Honest could have never existed in Hollywood. An entire production for a year just for it all to be burned to the ground forever. Now, if I'm incorrect and I'm assuming wrong, then that's on my wrong. That's my undoing. But I don't think Hollywood would create something that makes so much money or like has such a following and then burn it to the ground for the sake of artistic expression. I think we could see a lot more YouTubers getting into the film industry due to their independent success. Because I think I saw Jacksepticeye's gonna work on the Bloodborne film now as well. I also want to bring up true crime YouTubers. Because if someone's like, well, I want to watch something that's 2 hours long and has a plot and all of that, and I want to be able to attach myself and, you know, learn about what's going on. Now, obviously, the crimes and things that have happened are very serious and deserve respect, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, you get connected to them like that or anything like that. But I'm trying to say it's a long form of content that individuals can watch, and it's another example of individuals applying them and themselves and their skills to YouTube to an extent in which I believe would be immensely beneficial for further creative endeavors pursued on YouTube. Because they're basically at that point like mini documentaries. I used to mainly watch documentaries, and I mean I still do, but I don't really use a lot of streaming services. But when I did, I watched a lot of documentaries, and some of those true crime like videos that people do, that's a lot of research and a lot of effort into editing all of that. That's a documentary. They're uploading a documentary a week, maybe even multiple. That's wild. That's so much. Like, I have a lot of respect for individuals who not only do that like every week or like multiple times a week, and they are consistent with their upload schedule and they are accurate in their like links provided and everything. A lot of respect. I think if you want to get that attached to a fictional universe and the characters and everything, it's not that movies are inherently bad or like, I think that actors are unnecessary or anything. I think they're very beneficial. I think the art form in and of itself is, a valid art form. I just think it would be better because not only does it help, intellectually, but, again, some of Hollywood isn't ethical. People who have a lot of power, they get to say over what you get on the screen sometimes, and it's not always the safest environment for everyone involved in the creation of a movie or a TV series. And I think it's important to remember that when you're consuming media. That's one of the reasons why I really like YouTube. The individual gets the proceeds. For example, Jeanette McCurdy and her experiences being in the film industry as a young child and her negative experiences and the abuse she endured from individuals in that world. I think if that is a concern with your consumption of media, then maybe to just switch to reading a book instead. Because guess what? Fictional characters don't exist. In order to film a scene or whatever, that ends up being very bad for the actor because they had to experience this, that, and the other in order to be able to film it. And I just think it's a better choice. With movies, currently, I can't say the last time I watched a movie and I was enthralled by it. That I really enjoyed it, except for when Barbie and Oppenheimer came out. I don't know what year that was, but whenever those came out, I was like, oh, okay, they kind of ate. That was Hollywood, y'all ate. That's good. Now that I've discussed the main part when it comes to the options, and given a generalized overview about them, I'm going to go into the specific reasons of why I chose this over this, and I'm going to be giving each different platform points. And then I'm going to read out the point total for all three of the options at the end, and then I will give the number of, oh, so, that means this one won because it got X amount of points. For a section where, two services win, they're just both gonna get the point, and the one that didn't, they're not gonna get a point. So they can tie, and they will get a point. Starting off with the budgeting. Unfortunately, like I already previously discussed, YouTube, not a lot of budget there. Actually, some of the lowest stuff out there, I watched a YouTuber be like, yeah, I started with duct tape and a camera and just slapped it on a wall. That's not great. I'm surprised it didn't fall off, but no, that one, the point has got to go to both cable TV and the streaming services for that because, boy oh boy. Now, we've already discussed about which services are more modern or outdated, and so we've already said that, modern streaming and YouTube has the most modernity. It's not traditional, it's not old, so both YouTube and regular streaming services get that point. The third category discussed was the subscription cost. And that's gonna go to YouTube because there is absolutely no subscription cost required to do YouTube. The fourth category, I'm not gonna add this into the point-based system because, like I said, I was using the list of all of what I was determining it by. Again, I'll probably add it to the description of my YouTube video after this if anyone wants it. If they don't, I'm probably gonna let it disappear and die out into the ether. But, you know, I do have it. And then the next category, it's the second round of ads that we've already discussed, and the point's gonna go to YouTube and regular streaming services, because regular streaming services and YouTube both do not have any ads after the subscription to the service, whereas with cable, at least the last time that I checked, I haven't had it in a little bit, but the last time I had cable, it still had ads. Either that's gonna date me a lot, or it's not. And then the streaming category of, like, where you can stream it, I'm giving that point to regular streaming sites and YouTube, because it can be basically anywhere at any time without having to pre-record it. Because again, last time I had cable, you had to pre-record it. Again, I don't know if I'm dating myself really heavily, but you had to pre-record your episode and be like, alright, I want to watch this Tuesday, so I gotta record it for this day. Whereas with YouTube and regular streaming services, you don't have to do that. The next one, that one's also very subjective because it focuses on the type of content made. So if you just, that was what my primary debate was about, of if you like the long form content, yada yada yada. And that's up to you. You can add the point to regular streaming services and cable if that's your opinion. Now, the next one focuses on the amount of places you can stream it. And like with a streaming service, it's gonna require you to pay for like more than, like, you want to stream one place and then you want to stream another place, you may have to pay more for certain streaming services to be able to go to all of those places. So I am giving that point to YouTube because it doesn't require, you just put in the URL anywhere that has an internet connection and a web browser, and you can pull up YouTube. As long as it can, you know, play audio. Unless you want a quiet MatPat on your screen, just bang it on the wall. And then the last one covers the funds and how it's distributed to the entertainers, you know, funding Hollywood or funding, like, the producers and whatnot, versus funding the creator directly. I'm giving the point again to YouTube, because the funds, although they're, you know, a lot of social media sites take a little bit of a cut, it's not enough to where the cut they take doesn't stop you from making the content that you create, and it's not limiting your creative control. Most of the time. Sometimes people get demonetized, etc., etc., but most of the time it doesn't. And I would give YouTube that point, although there are some times in which they demonetize somebody when they don't deserve it. It's not a perfect platform, but in order to improve, you have to understand where you need to improve. What's the final score? And the drum roll, here, I actually I can do a drum roll. Let's see if it'll... It sounds like it's just really, like a really angry bird. There's my drum roll. Cable TV ended up with a drop-dead 1 point through all of the options that we assessed. Streaming ended up with 4 points. YouTube ended with a total of 6 points. Although I did talk about this for like over an hour straight, I will want to make a note. I don't know, like, YouTube didn't incentivize me for this. This is just out of the pure love of YouTube from my heart, since it's been my entire childhood and into my adulthood, into my adult life now. It's just always been something I've enjoyed, and it's not like they went to a really small creator to be like, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna sit and you're gonna talk about YouTube for like 2 hours because we told you to. So nobody told me to make this. I didn't have some secret connection to be like, I need you to gas me up. You need to gas up this platform. I just genuinely enjoy it, and I think it can be such a useful platform, along with like educational content too. Like there's the TED Talks and all that. Like, it's so resourceful. It's so resourceful. I love it from like the bottom of my heart, genuinely. As much as this is a debate video, because it is, it's also my unrequited love letter, my unsolicited love letter to YouTube. YouTube noticed me. Joking. Actually, no, it would be great. Hi! I know Susan used to be I think she was the CEO of YouTube. I know a lot of people would joke and be like, hi Susan! In their videos. I don't know if she's the CEO anymore, but if she is, hi Susan! Notice me? I'm not trying to say YouTube rewinds need to be a thing again, but as this is also a love letter to YouTube, I think that there should be some tradition again with YouTube that is new, to be able to have creators, participate in and to do, if not like a yearly, but like during a period of time, I don't know what period of time or how long, but to just have them gather around and do something and have it be a tradition to celebrate YouTube and all of its accomplishments over the years. You know that meme of the cow? Like every first of the month? Actually, I don't know if this is really predominant around your circles, your social circles anymore, but I know for me personally, I still have friends who do that cow thing at the beginning of the month, every single month, and I think it's sweet. I like it. I like traditions that are harmless and enjoyable for the general population, and I think that little cow thing of wake up, it's the first of the month, da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't remember what it is, but like the rest of the thing. Actually, I don't know, can I get copyrighted for that? I have no idea, but I really enjoyed that, and I think it's such a harmless but very cute thing. A very cute thing to have, and for people to participate in. I think an issue, if you viewed YouTube as a replacement for a source of, television, at least that I experience, because I do it, and I've done it for years, is your subscriptions. You can't necessarily just be like, oh, well, I follow this person because I want to watch their gaming videos. In order to reorder your subscriptions, you're gonna have to go and unsubscribe from them, subscribe to them again, and put them in that order to do that. And that's not necessarily the worst case scenario or anything, but there's not groups. If, let's say you wanted to, well, even with traditional cable, this isn't necessarily something that shows up. I guess this is another point that a traditional streaming would get. Because when you're on a streaming service, you could be like, I want to watch an action movie. I want to watch something romance. I want to watch horror or something. Whereas with YouTube, it's not like I mean, they have that where you'd be like, I want to watch this, but you can't manage your subscriptions. The best of my knowledge, maybe I'm talking and I just haven't discovered the way to do it. In that case, if somebody knows, please let me know. I would love to know. But you can't manage your subscriptions to where it's by genre. I think it's nice to acknowledge the viewer. Whenever you're watching a film or a TV show, they don't really acknowledge the viewer. It's not normalized to break the fourth wall. Of course, there are movies, there are TV shows that break the fourth wall and they just go, you know, that would look terrible on the pod. Not look terrible. Yes, it'll look terrible on the podcast that people are listening to. If you're on the podcast version of this, I looked at the camera and then, like, essentially had a thumbs up being like, that guy, huh? I like the feeling of, even though I'm not participating in it, and it's not expected of me to participate in it, it's being acknowledged that I am an active viewer instead of I'm just viewing. You know, that the avatar thing of, I see you. It's nice. I want to feel like I'm included without having to do anything. So, if anyone would like the table and the point system that I was discussing before, I will eventually leave it in the description or the comments if it's requested. If it's not requested, then I'm not doing it. Not because I don't want to, but because if no one asks, there's no purpose of me doing it. I hope you enjoyed not only this stream, but the video for people who are watching the video version of this and not the live stream. If you want to watch the live stream next time, I stream every Tuesday. Well, it's not always going to be like this, it's going to change. But generally, every Tuesday and Wednesday, from 12 p.m. CST to 2 p.m. CST. And whenever that stream happens, you can call in, you can call in using this number, and I will answer it, and we can debate about any topic that you want to. I do reserve the right to hang up, though, if it gets a bit out of, or if the topic's not, you know, right. I reserve the right to hang up at any point, but if you are camera shy, and you don't want to call in next time, you can use the code that I have here. It'll lead to my Linktree, and at my Linktree, you can click the Get on the Podcast link, and on that, it will lead you to a form. And on that form, you can enter whatever you want, and I will read it, and I will provide my opinion on the podcast, or my rebuttal to that debate if I disagree with you. If I don't disagree with you, I might just be like, yo, this is bars, you're right. And then I will read that on the podcast one week. If you don't even want to do the form, you can also just write me an email, because I also have my email provided in my Linktree for you. And also, Beta, if you weren't here before, then or you just clicked out and you didn't notice, that's Theta, the hypothetical. She is a ghost. She floats around in the back. She's here for emotional support. She's a great lady, great lass. Yeah. So if you want to check out any of my other social media, clips from this stream that are funny and edited up for the fun parts. Any more information regarding stream or the podcast, you can, this again is on that link, and it's all under that link tree, and you can find me there. But yeah, so that was this episode. Again, last episode, it was, is marriage worth it? And that is why I think YouTube is the best, or YouTube should replace, that's why I think YouTube should replace regular television. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and follow, subscribe, do whatever you want. This is Theta, this is Token, and I hope you all have a good one. Token today in this purgatory base call in to create my number awaits.